Hello EVSC students. My name is Anna Haggard and I work at Lincoln School in the 6th grade. So a shout out to my Lincoln Lions out there. I'm glad that you are watching and I hope that you learn a little bit from this lesson here. Today what we're going to be talking about is plot and how characters change throughout the story. So right now people have heard the saying that plot is like a mountain or a roller coaster, but I think of it as a volcano. So a volcano at the very bottom is your exposition. That tells everything that's happening at the beginning of the story and how the story starts, including the characters and the setting. The rising action is everything that leads up to that climax. What the climax is like that big scene in a movie, kind of like how that changes the whole entire storyline. The falling action is stuff that happens after the climax, and the resolution is the ending of the story, how they resolve the problem of the story. A lot of times the falling action and the resolution are the same thing. So let's go ahead and get started with this. Okay, so some mindful questions to start thinking about right now is, what are the different parts of plot? How is the exposition and the rising action different? What are a couple ways a character can change within a story? And can the main character only be the one that changes, and why? So these are questions to be thinking about during this lesson, and so you can also be writing these down on a piece of paper if you want to send to your teacher. I'm sure that they would love to see your intake on this lesson and these questions right here. All right, so our lesson objectives. I am so sorry, my voice is going in and out here today. I can explain how a plot unfolds in a series of episodes, and I can explain how the character changes throughout the story. So those are the two main points that we're doing. Right now, why don't you tell your parents what you think these I can statements mean? What are we going to be learning today? Okay. So just like how we read a story, we want to connect with our story or our movie. So today with plot, instead of reading a story, because you're going to be doing that with your teacher, we're going to be talking about the movie Aladdin. A bunch of you already know this, the cartoon version, and have already probably seen it in theaters. So this is a great way to connect, because a story and a movie are kind of the same thing. So, and a lot of movies are based off of books. So let's go ahead and get started here. Okay, so the exposition, we've already talked about this. That tells who, when, where, and how it starts. Okay, just like in Aladdin, we're going to say the who, which is Aladdin, Jasmine, the Sultan, Genie, Jafar, and Iago. Those are the main characters. Those are the characters that are always going to be in the story. They have supporting characters, but these are the main characters that have done stuff in the movie. The when is, we do not know when exactly, but it was pre-technology time. So if we don't know, we're going to have a rough guesstimate on that, and we're going to kind of describe that time period in the best way we can. But if you have it in a book and it says 1984, you're going to put 1984. The where is Agrabah, okay? So that is the place where this is all started. It doesn't matter if it's a beginning, middle, or end, it's going to be set in that place. And then how Aladdin went to go get the lamp. Aladdin, when most of you could even visualize this in your head right now, when he goes into that cave to get the lamp, that was the start of everything. That was the start of the problem. That was the start of the story right there. So if he didn't go get the lamp, the story would end right there. But since he went in, that's where it all started. Okay, so the rising actions are the events that led up to the climax. Okay? And for Aladdin, Aladdin met the genie, became a prince, and fell in love with a princess. Those are all events that happen before that big scene, that scene that makes you go, whoa, okay? So once I want you to think about, before I go to the next slide, think about what the climax would be in Aladdin. I'm going to give you just a few minutes to think about that. So what is the climax of Aladdin? And let's see if you get this one correct with me. All right, so let's go ahead. Okay, so the climax would be the fight between Aladdin and the new Sultan. Okay, so as they were fighting, that would be the climax of it. I didn't put that in the slides because I wanted you to think for yourself with that. So make sure that you're remembering that big scene. That scene was when everyone's eyes were on the screen and they were like, whoa, what's going to happen next? Okay? The falling action and the resolution. So the falling action is the events that led up to the ending, and the resolution is how the problem was fixed. Okay? So that's kind of like the genie applauding at the end. They resolved the problem, right? So the falling action and the resolution is somewhat combined in the story. So especially this story, they're kind of smushed together because the falling action, right after the fight, there was just a little bit of time where they resolved that problem. Okay? Remember, the problem is that someone else wanted to be in power. Someone else wanted to take over. Okay? So the falling action and the resolution was Jafar was tricked into becoming a genie and was sent to the cave from the beginning of the story. Okay? So if that didn't happen, what do you think would happen if Jafar won? What would happen would the ending of the story be different? That's also with the climax. You had to think if the ending is different, the climax is going to be different as well. So the climax affects the whole entire story. So anytime that you want to identify with the climax, make sure you think, okay, if this climax was different, would that change my whole story? Would that change my ending? And then if you can say yes to that, then most likely that is going to be your climax. Okay? So the way that they resolved it is that Jafar is in the cave again. Okay? Okay, so we have a video on character changes. They're talking about writing, but we are looking at the details in it to tell how the character changes.
Salutations, crafters of the word. We are Reginald and Rufus Wright here from Smart Stories.
We're here today to explain to you or give you some ideas about how to write really smart stories, and we're focusing on writing about really good characters.
Now, a good story and a good character has a lot of change in it.
Oh, hang on, I've got some change.
Oh, yes?
Yes, here you go. Right, how much do you need?
No.
I've got 20, 50p,
Oh,
I've got a pound.
no, I did not mean money change. I meant
it's fine, I've got loads. We can share.
I meant when someone changes. That's a good story, when someone changes.
Oh, okay, so like when you change your clothes, or when a baby changes its nappy. That sounds like a vile and most ungentlemanly story, brother.
No, that's not what I meant. I meant when a person changes into a different person in a story, if only slightly. A bit like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly.
I think I understand what you mean now, Rufus. You mean the way a character might change the way they think, or the way they feel, or the way they act. In the Gruffalo, the mouse at the start is a very timid creature, but then over the story, he changes and he is the most fearsome creature in the whole forest.
There are lots of characters that learn how to be brave, like Harry Potter, or Matilda, or Percy Jackson.
Or characters maybe don't change it and become braver. Maybe they learn to do something new, like learning to love. For example, Gru from Despicable Me. He has to learn to change. He changes and begins to understand how to love the children.
Knocked over! It don't let me!
He starts off not even liking children and ends up loving them like his own. So to write a really smart story, what you need to do is to think about things that will change that character. How are the events in the story going to challenge what that character does, how they act?
Let's take Matilda for our next example. She starts off at the beginning of the story being pushed around by everyone. She never sticks up for herself.
I'm smart, you're dumb. I'm big, you're little. I'm right, you're wrong. And there's nothing you can do about it.
But she manages to find out that she has an inner strength that she uses to protect herself and those that she loves. And by the end of the story, she has changed so much and harnessed this power so much that she can come up and defeat the ultimate challenge. Trunchbull herself.
We really hope that this has helped you to write really interesting things about characters, about the way that they change through your smart stories.
For more reasons to write, please share and subscribe.
All right. So we're going to go right on back here. We're going to go back to the slide. Okay. So as you can see, that was about writing a story with character change, but we're identifying it when we're explaining how we know that. So what we're going to do now is I want you to think of a character in Aladdin, and I want you to see how they were at the beginning and how they changed in the middle and how they changed at the end. And was the change from the beginning and end the same or different? So I'm going to give you just a couple minutes to think about that. Think of one character, one main character. All right, so we're going to go ahead. Oh, there we go. So, all right, so I actually picked Aladdin because he's the main character. He's what the story is all about. So Aladdin, I took his mentally and socially. Well, look at that. Say, I'm having some technology issues here, aren't I, ladies and gentlemen? Say, but that's okay. We're going to keep on going, aren't we? All right, so I picked mentally and socially, okay? So mentally is what's in their mind, what their mindset is. You can also identify this as a cell. Remember when you were in class and you would have cell lessons with your teacher to talk about your brain and how your brain works? Well, this is exactly what we're doing for a character change here. So mentally, Aladdin went from thinking he was not good enough to having confidence in himself, okay? So think of at the very beginning, what did he say about Princess Jasmine and him? And what happened at the end? So we know this he said that the princess would never love a guy like him. And what happened? They got married. They fell in love and got married. Okay? Socially, he went from being a street rat to marrying the princess. As we can tell, that one's a really easy one for change, isn't it? So this one right here is just saying, well, you know what? I just need to stop touching the board, don't I? My goodness. Okay. So we know this because he was homeless, he was stealing food, he was being chased by the guards that were calling him a street rat. Okay? Then all of a sudden, he's in the palace. The guards are not chasing him. He doesn't have to worry about food anymore because his life has changed forever because he met the princess. So now, what was one of your examples? Did you do Aladdin and think of another way that he changed? Did you think of Jafar or the genie or the princess? Or the sultan. Think of one of those and see how they changed over time. Did they change in the middle and then go back to the end, or did they change throughout the whole entire story? So some characters will change throughout the whole entire story. Some of them will change just in parts, and some of them won't change at all, but that's okay. All right, so it's your turn now. So you remember those questions I had at the very beginning? Well, we're gonna have these, okay? So what are the different parts of plot? Remember our volcano, or if you like the mountain or the roller coaster, that's great too. What are the different points of plot, okay? How is the exposition and the rising action different? So what's the difference between them? So you're going to have two answers for that one, okay? And what are a couple ways a character can change within a story? Remember, we gave two examples, but there's multiple examples that you could give, okay, that we talked about. And then can the main character be the only one that changes, and why? Okay, why do you think your answer is correct with that? So make sure that you are writing these questions down. I'm sure that the questions at the beginning and the end of this video, I bet that they would absolutely love to hear your answers, your teachers, or even any teacher or any principal. They know that you're watching right now, and make sure that when you send them these answers, that you use the secret code word of SMILE. Okay, so whenever you text your teacher or email them or anyway, Google Classroom or anything, make sure you say the code word is SMILE, and make sure you're sending these questions to them, because I bet that they would absolutely love it. Okay, I'm sure that sometime in this unit or in the next few weeks, you're going to be learning about plot, or you're going to be using it in your Google Classroom or whichever Google website or Classroom website or anything like that. Just make sure that you're staying in contact with your teacher if you have any other questions about this. I hope that you guys have a wonderful day, and all of the teachers miss you guys, and we hope that you have a great virtual learning time.